Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to talk about what I want to see in F1 2020 and future F1 games. These are mostly just ideas that I've come up with. I know other people have done this type of video before, but I haven't really watched too many of those. These are just my own ideas, and we're going to start off with number one, and that is running your own team in career mode. Now I know this could be a difficult thing to implement, but it would be awesome now that we've got the F1 2019 spec car, and there's not a lot of rule changes going into next year, so that should be more or less just carried over into the next game. I think it would be an absolutely awesome feature if we could run our own team, bring in one of the F2 drivers, say, you know, if you wanted to bring in Jack Aitken or, I don't know, Nick De Vries into the next season of Formula 1, that would be awesome. And they could be your teammate in your own new team. I think that would be absolutely amazing. Whether that's even possible to implement, I don't know. And obviously, there's the sort of licensing issues with drivers and cars and things. But they added driver transfers in, and that seems to be working pretty well. So I don't see any reason they can't get the F2 drivers to be a teammate, or even a Lucas Weber or Devin Butler type of character. If that ends up being too tricky, that's why fictional characters are an option. They've already implemented them, so that could just be a really awesome option for career mode. And on the topic of F2 drivers, let's have F2 drivers move up into Formula 1. It would be amazing if, say, after Season 1, you could have some of the older drivers, Kimi Raikkonen, Lewis Hamilton, Vettel. Drivers like that could retire after a season or two, or well, leave it a few more than that, maybe after 3 or 4 seasons, and then drivers from Formula 2 will move up into Formula 1. So, you know, the top drivers, obviously Latifi will already be in the game, but it would be awesome if we could have, you know, some of the other top drivers from Formula 2, Aitken, Giotto, Sede Camara, De Vries, Matsushita, even like Mick Schumacher. Imagine if they moved all up into F1. That would be absolutely awesome to see in the F1 game. But again, I'm not sure how possible that is, but it would be incredible to be able to see that. And again, it can just be an option. It doesn't have to be a compulsory sort of part of career mode, just like driver transfers are an option in F1 2019, whether you like them or not. So you can just turn it off if you want. So I think that would be an absolutely amazing addition to the game. So anyway, moving on now to my third point, that is more cutscenes, and that includes the national anthem. So obviously in real F1, when a driver wins a race, they play the national anthem of that driver. So, you know, when Leclerc wins, they play the Monaco national anthem. Hamilton wins a lot, you always hear the British national anthem. So it would be amazing if, you know, as an Australian, I could hear the Australian national anthem when I win a race. That would be a really cool addition. Again, there's licensing and all that sort of stuff, but that would be a really nice touch to the podium ceremony in the game, which hasn't really changed much in the past few games. And as for the other cutscenes that I refer to, I mean the ones from the Formula 2 portion of the career mode, they are absolutely amazing, but there are just not enough of them. I want, you know, I just want more. It was really cool to have that sort of interaction with Devin Butler and Lucas Weber. I assume there will be a couple of new characters in F1 2021, or sorry, 2020 rather. But yeah, I just wish that there was more of them, because I did enjoy those cutscenes and that whole sort of storyline in the first F2 season of the career mode. On to point number 4, and this goes with the whole rivalry theme of F1 2019, and that is the rivalry system. And I think something that could be added to it or tweaked in a way is the qualifying head-to-head. It's something they spoke about a lot in real life. In just about every round, they would mention the qualifying head-to-head. Obviously, in the last round, we heard about Lando Norris beating Carlos Sainz by one qualifying session, 11-10, and it would be really awesome to have that tally in the F1 game against your teammate to see who is the better qualifier. So I think that's something that wouldn't be too difficult to add, and it would, I guess, just add a little something to the rivalry system, which right now doesn't really add too much to the game in my opinion. So on to point number 5, that is classic cars. Now, I know that classic cars are not everyone's cup of tea, but I really think that, well, from the 70s to now, there's a pretty good range. But there is a lot of classic cars from the first 20 years of F1. Obviously, I know there's licensing and all that sort of stuff to do with the classic cars, but I think it would be really cool if we could have, say, I don't know, go with something old like Giuseppe Farina's 1950 Alfa Romeo that they keep talking about in the cutscene before the British Grand Prix. Like, it would just be really cool to have, cars from that long ago, and there's plenty of other ones. There's Ferraris back then, there was old McLarens, what about BRM, Van Wall. There's a whole bunch of classic teams and cars that would be really, really awesome to have. There's the Brabham fan car, the Tyrrell thing with 6 wheels. I don't know, there's a bunch of crazy cars from back in the day that would be really cool to have in the game. There's the cars that aren't even open wheel cars from the 50s. So I think there's a lot of classic cars that I would love to have a drive of in the game. I'm not really expecting too many of those sorts of things to be added, but it would be really awesome to see if we could have something like that in the game, in my opinion anyway. I know, like I said, classic cars aren't for everyone. And anyway, on to my point number 6, AI mistakes. Now, they do make mistakes, but I think they could probably make a few more. But I think it would be really cool on a rare occasion, say, about as rarely as they have mechanical failures, so you just see 1 or 2 per race in general. It'd be really awesome if they just sort of went off. Like, we've seen it with Antonio Giovinazzi a few times this year in Canada, and more notably at Spa, where he's just sort of lost it for no reason. And I think at Silverstone as well, where he's just sort of, I don't know, made a few mistakes. And I think it'd be really cool if just every now and again the AI made some unforced errors when there were no other cars around. So I think that would just be just add a little bit of something to the game, a little bit of sort of realism, I guess, because it's not common for drivers to make mistakes these days, but it does happen. Even when there's no other cars around and when they're not under pressure, it does happen. So I think that would be a really cool little addition. And the other thing about that is AI punctures. I don't know where they went, but I want them back. I know they did cause some silly things every now and again. They would have some issues and other cars would run into them and break their wheels off, but I don't know, I like that. I like the silliness. But anyway, my point number 8, upgrade ceilings. So I think every team should have the same maximum potential, because they race to the same rules, and in theory, if they could get to a perfect F1 car within that set of rules, eventually they would all sort of get to that. I'm not really making much sense here, but my point is, it would just be sort of fair, I suppose, if every team had the same upgrade ceiling. Even if you need to do 40 upgrades to the Williams compared to 20 upgrades to the Ferrari, I think it would just be like, can you imagine if you're in season 6 and every single team is completely even and the whole field is separated by a few tenths? I know it's sort of unlikely, it's an unlikely scenario even in real life, but I think that would just be, it'd be amazing to have that kind of championship fight going on with a field so close, and I really would like to see that. But anyway, that is up to Codemasters whether they can implement that, and if they want to. Number 9, randomized strategies for the AI. Now, this sounds a little bit weird, but what I mean is the starting tires for the cars starting from 11th to through 20th, and we see in real life some of them in any given race start on softs, mediums, some start on hards. There's and there's not a guarantee that one is better than the other. Whereas in the F1 game, you can pretty much guarantee that they will never start on hards. They'll pretty much never even touch the hards, the AI, and mostly they will start on the softs, sometimes on the mediums, depending on the race and what it sort of the strategy looks like. But I think it would be really cool if the game just went, okay, 1, 2, or 3. 3 is the hard tire. That would be really cool to see, and it would really mix up the AI strategy among the back marker cars, and I think that would be just quite cool to see how that plays out, because it happens in real life. It should happen in the game. And now to my final point. Stop! Future me realizing that I forgot something. So we need player mechanical failures. A lot of people have asked for this, and I agree. It should just be an option. We can turn it on and off. I don't need to explain it. If you have turned it on, you can be on lap 20 of a race and your engine will just explode at random. And that needs to be something that we can experience just like the AI do. And on top of that, we need to be able to spectate the rest of the race after we DNF, whether it's a mechanical failure or we just crash out or get disqualified even, whatever the case is. We need to be able to watch the rest of the race and see what happens, because, you know, imagine, say, if you're in a season finale and you manage to crash out or have a mechanical failure, and you know you want to see the rest of the race to see how your rivals are going, and I think that could be a very interesting feature to have if if you ever find yourself in that scenario. But anyway, on to my final point, and that is my only point about online. It will be about the ranked races, because in F1 2018, one of my favorite things about the ranked races was the classic cars, and you just get set in the full field of identical classic cars, and those were some of my best races in F1 2018 in those classic cars, and I felt like I was a lot more competitive in those. But without just making this about me, I think it's just a good way to mix it up every now and again, to do a race in classic cars, and a good way to make people use the classic cars in the game, because people do ranked races. So I think that would be just I don't know why they took them out. I really liked having the classic cars in the ranked races, and I want them back. And while you're at it, you can also add the F2 cars into the ranked races too, because they're a lot of fun to drive as well. But that's just my opinion. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea to drive the classic cars and the F2 cars, so I can understand that. But I think that was it's a really good way to just sort of mix things up a little bit. But anyway, let me know what you want to see in the next F1 game and future F1 games, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye. No, wait. I forgot something else. We need Pastor Maldonado's 2012 Williams. Okay, bye.